everyone. Luke here. G'day, Shady. How's it going?
Hi everyone. Hey Luke, how are you, mate?
I'm very well. Welcome to this week's, I believe, Game Week 23's podcast. Obviously, it's been a bit of a disappointing week for all of us Milan supporters with the 2-0 Spezia loss. Not many positives, to be honest, that can come out of that match. Would you agree, Shady?
Yeah, it was bad on every single level. To the extent that even like the post-match interviews were bad. We had the inconsistency of Pioli saying it was just an off day and Romagnoli saying something along the lines of that we kind of underestimated them. So even that we couldn't get right. It was a match to forget.
Is this starting to become worrying?
Look, well, I think the next, again, as far as Serie A is concerned, I still stand by the Inter and Roma matches will really give me an idea of where we stand and what we're capable of for the rest of the season. And in like the grand scheme of things, I think the next 4 games, including the 2 games against Red Star, will really show us what we're made of. 4 big games, 2 games a week, basically. Not a lot of time to recover, so really fast-paced, really high pressure, and all these games have all these games carry some weight. So obviously the Europa League, you could just get knocked out of the competition already after the Copa, and the league games were really with the second and third place teams. So I wouldn't say that it's at this point I'm necessarily worried. Definitely there have been some warning signs. I'm alerted, I would say, but not panicking. But no, make no mistake about it, we should not. Going into that game, as we were talking, 2 of us last week were saying we should respect Spezia, we should really take our game to them and not, but we did not show any signs of that.
Before I say anything about our performance, I think definitely credit is deserved for that Spezia performance. Really good.
They did their part.
They played very well. They outplayed us in every single way, I think. But leading on to us, I would say for me the worst game of our season so far. Disappointing. 0 shots on target, really not many chances at all created. I think the right side particularly wasn't very impressive at all. It wasn't, in any way. Dallo and Salamakers. I think the midfield, Benasser and Kessie struggled against the press that Spezia had. I think, Pioli... I don't often comment on substitutions, but I think it was a bit strange, the decisions he made. I'm not sure about Zlatan and Mandzukic playing together. Obviously, that was a last-minute kind of shake-up to help us out.
Yeah, it wasn't
even Benasser coming off early, I don't know. I would have preferred something on the right side a little bit early because Salamakers was pretty clearly off, I think. Teo had a bad day. One of those games that not many things, if anything, went right for us.
Exactly, nothing worked. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I don't want to delve into too much detail because it was just so poor. It was just a really poor game for us. Look, we're past the point where we can say this is a one-off because again we lost against Inter, against Juve, against Atalanta. And now Spezia, all within like 6 weeks or so. So, all teams, credit to all these teams for getting the result against us. But we need to wake up. We need to get back to business. We still have, the good thing is, again, I'm not worried necessarily like worried because we've got things in our hands. We can turn this around. If the team starts to play, just like regains that momentum they had, starts to play as they have been for the past few months, almost a year now, then we should be fine. I think we should be fine. But yeah, we just need to step up, and I think the players will have enough of an incentive going into a derby. Zlatan, I hope the mature leader in him shows up on that day, and not a petty boy who's gonna fight with Lukaku. Do your talking on the pitch, get those goals. And sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I jumped ahead of the Red Star game, but I'm just like, I mean, as I can imagine, a lot of Milanisti are just thinking about the derby and thinking about, this head-to-head struggle for the league, I guess. So, I mean, yeah. So
I guess, yeah. Before we get to the Inter, we'll quickly talk about the Red Star match. To be honest, I had almost forgotten about it. I've been so obsessed about the derby that's coming up. Obviously, Red Star. I mean, there's not too many clubs that are prouder, I don't think, in their history and what they are than the Red Star supporters and players, probably. So, and it's over there, it's away. So it's a big clash, and as you said before, it's a big test of our players and what they're made of. It's, for us Australians, it's this Friday, 4:45, and which is pretty close to the Derby as well, considering that they've got to fly over and fly back. Yeah, they finished second of their group leading into it. We finished top. Yeah, it's a big clash. It's a question on what Pioli will do. Do you think he'll play our best side, or do you think he'll rest a few players into the Derby?
I would hope he'd rest a few players. I mean, I would hope he'd rest a few players. Again, an important game, definitely an important competition in general, but I would definitely prioritize Serie A over the Europa League.
Is this a game that Mandzukic is playing over Zlatan?
I would hope so.
Yeah,
I would hope so.
I think it's perfect. European, it's a big match, considering the story of our season and just what it is. It's a good team. I think it's perfect for Mandzukic to play all 90 or
above. All over. You'd hope that would happen. We'll see how we go. I would hope so. I really want to save big guns for the. I mean, I don't want like a really poor performance in general, but I think our squad overall has done really well this season. So I think that we've got it within the squad with the players we have. We have the relative depth. I'm not going to say too much depth compared to other teams in Europe, but we have the relative depth to be able to field a slightly weaker side and just save our big guns for the derby.
Are we playing Benacer and Kessie, do you think, in the midfield? Personally, I don't think we should, but against going back to that Spezia match, it didn't seem to click between them as much as we've seen. Are we saying that just let them play together and maybe have a good game leading into the Derby, or rest one or two of them?
Well, it's a tough one because ideally you wouldn't play them both. But that being said, Kessie adds a bit of steel, and Benacer adds that guile or finesse. Plus, but Tonali can also bring that to the table. But the issue is that Benacer needs minutes to kind of regain his form. You're talking about him not looking too good against Spezia, but he's been out for a while. So it's normal he's going to struggle a bit. And when the whole team is off as well, it's not really something that helps when you're trying to find your form and everyone else is having like a terrible day or just not playing. You're not going to be able to do it by yourself. So in a sense, he does need minutes. Whether or not I'd field him for the 90 minutes is another story. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably take him off in the second half, but just give him some minutes. Or the other way around, start someone else and bring him on. I mean, either or, depending on how we're looking going into the game. And unfortunately, I would probably give Kessie a start, get the nod to start, because we need that bit of steel in the middle of the park, and maybe bring him off in the second half if the game's going well.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kessie is so important to our team, especially a team that's a little bit down on confidence. Super important to have that physical side in the player in the midfield, kind of dominating play. Especially, you kind of see it against some of these teams like Red Star, the European teams. You see him kind of do that. I mean, he's done it all season, but and probably Benacer might be good considering how close the games are to give him that time off.
Exactly.
And I should probably say, going back to what I said about Pioli, that as you said, Benacer has had a bit of time off. So bringing him off early in the Spezia match, I mean, it's not a complete outrage. So just
no.
for that.
No. Exactly. You have to kind of ease him in as well. He came off like he had like a chest infection or something after that. So it was not ideal. And just to add to your point, you made an excellent point about Kessie. Just to add to that as well, when you play against these Balkan teams, they're very physical. Some of them are talented. Club teams perhaps not as talented as the national teams, but they're very physical or aggressive on the ball. So you really want somebody like Kessie who's going to be able to stand up to them in the middle of the park, and you don't want your midfield to get run over in this kind of game with the kind of confidence we kind of are to an extent lacking, unfortunately, in the past few games. You want to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. So I think that's why it would be important to start him as long as he's 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly considering when the alternatives would be maybe like a Miete, Benacer. I think Kessie should start.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we've said, it's a Red Star team that's looking pretty strong. 19 wins, 2 draws and 0 losses in the Serbian league, and still pretty strong Europa League performance in history. So yeah, what are your predictions? I guess we're leading to Shady.
I'm gonna go for a score draw. 1-1, 2-1, something like that. For that one, I think. I would love to get a win, but I think a more realistic, in my mind, given the phase we're going through right now, is probably a score draw.
I think that's the first ever prediction we've ever made that wasn't a win, Shady. You've made history today.
Yeah.
I'll stick to tradition and just say 1-0.
Okay. That'd be nice. That's like the ideal scenario, isn't it?
I think it'll be a tough slog for both teams, but maybe one of us, hopefully Milan, will squeeze out a goal.
Yeah, that'd be good. That would be lovely.
Yeah.
No complaints here if we do that, yeah.
All right, well, leading to the one that everyone's talking about, the Derby. What do we think?
Tough game. It's going to be arguably our toughest game of the year. I seem to say this a lot, arguably our toughest game, our biggest game, but this time, definitely, given the circumstances we're in right now, given what's happening at the top of the table, given a lot of things, obviously, say no more. It's a derby, and we're both top of the league. They're a point ahead of us. So, given all these factors, the stakes are huge. There will be time to make up if we end up not winning, but it's just, I think, the momentum and the fallout from this game will be huge. The game doesn't naturally, in any given season, even during our banter years, this game did not need any talking up or any hyping up, because it was already the most hyped up game of the season, probably, arguably, with the Uber game. But given everything that's been happening on and off the pitch lately, it's gonna be crazy. And I can imagine tempers are gonna flare. I can see a red card or two.
Yeah. Hey, as someone that's seen a lot of derbies and just Milan games in general, do you think this is one of the biggest ever derbies you've seen, or you will see?
It's not going to be as big as the Champions League semi-final, but yeah, it's definitely big.
Yeah.
The 2003 one, I think, was the one that you think about. You always think about the derby all week, but in general. But that was the one that was what? It just time stood still, I guess, in a way, for those two games. And yeah, that Shevchenko goals.
I think we just want to see. We want to see a classic match. Obviously, we want to see a Milan win, but it's looking like it should be a classic. 1 point separating first and second. It's something that, as Milan fans and Inter fans as well out there, that we've kind of been deprived of a little bit over the last 10 or so years. That clash that actually means more than just that historical significance to both teams. That could actually determine the league win.
That's a good point. It's a good point, but I mean, all I care about is the win.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice to have like some kind of classical epic game and all, but even if we get a scrappy 1-0, I'll take it. I want it.
Yeah.
I want to be in.
Of course.
Even if we didn't have anything at stake, I want the bragging rights. Generally speaking, I hate losing, but more specifically, I hate losing against the Inter and Juve.
A scrappy win against Inter to win the title, or to jump above them and get place against a classic to me, anyway.
Exactly, and it would give us an advantage as well. Come the end of the season, with the head-to-head, we'll have beaten them in both games. That would be lovely. It would be another advantage. So it's actually worth another point if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
So we have to go in though with the right attitude. We have to go in cool, calm, collected, as we have been for the majority of this past year. I mean, the way we've been playing against all the big teams, just keeping our heads. I mean, we went 2-0 down against Juventus and we came back, scored 4 goals. We beaten Napoli away. We've beaten everyone. Obviously, I don't need to go through that again. But I mean, the way that this team was functioning was coherent, and all that's what we need to go back to, the basics. There's no time for the kind of talk. Going back to my earlier point about Zlatan, he's an absolute phenomenon. I don't need to wax lyrical about Ibra. But what I'm trying to say is he should focus on he should let his football do the talking. The kind of talk that he had with Zapata and the kind of things is how many trophies do you have? I've already scored so many goals, so and so goals. And then the stat you go into with Lukaku as well. That kind of stuff is pointless. Win the bloody game and then move on. Then we can talk about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Because anything other than that just distracts us from what we want, which is to win this game, win the title.
Absolutely, completely agree. As much as we hate them, they have got good players. Who is it for you that you're most concerned about that we need to shut down? Is it Barella? Is it Lautaro? Is it Lukaku? Who have you got your eyes on?
There's a few. I hope and think our players will be well aware of how dangerous Lukaku can be, so they'll be on it. I think Christian Eriksen is having a mini renaissance with them. He's he's getting a run now with them. He's starting games, so maybe him and maybe Lautaro. Lautaro is amazing on the ball, but his finishing sometimes is a bit lets him down to an extent, which I hope is the case on Sunday. I hope his finishing is well off, and the runs from Hakimi on the right, I think, just behind Theo. We've pointed out repeatedly, Theo's that shortcoming he has, which is people can run cut in behind him. So, which Hakimi is actually very good at. So it'll be that if you can watch out for that, and he's communicating with Romagnoli, and they can talk together, and obviously Juju behind them. I think if we can keep that in check, we can probably edge this game.
Yeah, and I think all of those clashes. I mean, there's the Hakimi Theo clash. There's the Lukaku Ibra clash. I mean, yeah, there's a lot in this game leading into it. There always is, but yeah, but going back to, Inter this season and Inter in general, as a club, they I don't want to call it too early, but these are the matches that they're renowned for choking on, and I don't know. I feel like if I could imagine and guess a game where I could see Inter falling over, even though they might be the better team in these last few weeks. It would be a classic Inter move, wouldn't it?
Perhaps, yeah. They've always got a mistake in them, and from the start of the season, they've always let teams back into games, games they should have killed off. They've always let teams back into them, mid-table or teams lower in the division. They've always let them back in. So so I get your point about them not killing off games, and they definitely always have a mistake in them, and they have been renowned for that. I can see them bottling games towards the end of the season, but I think they'll also be fired up for this one. That's the thing. I think they'll really have the fire in their belly for this game. Yeah. So it's important that we are cool, calm, collected. Like I was saying, we just keep our heads on for a change in front.
Yeah.
As opposed to the past month and a half or so in the big games we've played, and we just do our thing. Just do our thing, and they can do whatever they want.
And stay focused and pounce on those opportunities that come, because they probably, they always come, but they definitely will come in this match, I think, and we just need to make the most of them, because that's how Inter loses. Realistically, they shouldn't have lost a lot of the matches that they have, but in true Inter form, they just always kind of slip up at those times. If you take those chances, you can jump on top of them, even if they're the better team on the day.
Exactly, and take the game to them. Unlike the Coppa Italia game, where we sat back in the second half. True, we had the sending off, yes, but we sat back. We gave them that game. You can't do that. You can't do that. And obviously, an armchair expert can say everything he wants, but our players and our coach know that. So, we need to take the game to them. I think that's the way to beat them. That's easier said than done, but I think that would be my thinking if I was in charge of the team.
All right. Well, hey, before predictions, who's going to be our best player?
Ibrahimovic.
Yeah, interesting. I think I'll agree, but I'll also say Juju.
He's good. I hope I hope he's really on that
coming out of him.
Yeah. Well, they're the top scorers, comfortably the top scorers in the league, aren't they? So we're gonna need Juju to be in tip-top shape.
Well, predictions?
2-1.
I was going to say the exact same. The exact same.
Beat you to the punch. Yep. Yeah, I think 2-1. We've had some bumpy results, but I believe in this team in general, and they deserve. It's still February, but they deserve to have a title to their name. They deserve to go places, and I hope that this is going to be help establish that or help cement that. This is going to be one of the results that's going to pave the way to the Scudetto.
Absolutely. Well, let's hopefully see that happen. We've got the Red Star match obviously first. Let's hope for a win there, and then the Derby win, which would be a huge part of this season's story.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Absolutely. Well, until next week, Shady, there'll be lots to talk about next week.
I think we'll have a really good discussion next week. We're either going to be bouncing off the walls or depressed as. But hopefully it's the form.
Yeah. Well, let's see. But as always, Forza Milan.
Forza Milan. Cheers, man.